we're back. I had to recalibrate my mind, so when I change resolutions, it changes cameras. Okay, thank you. Recalibrating. When it changes Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Siri. You see, Landon, when it changes resolutions, it changes cameras. This one sucks, the other one doesn't. Got it. It's like your two daughters. This one sucks, the other one doesn't. Sorry. That's really bad. I'm a bad man. Some people say he's a wicked one. Others he's an angel robed like a man. Others he's got a penis like the sun. And still others say his flesh and blood is like Jesus Christ. But he doesn't have a Christ complex. Hey man, Jesus had a Christ complex. Jesus had a Landon complex. He thought it was me. It's like there's a guy in the future, and I think if I get crucified, that'll be like him. It'll symbolize his entire life, and I'll get people to worship my death so that he can make the most of it. He'll figure it all out and tell people that they're wrong, and that Jesus prefigured his own existence so that they would stop having to torture everyone. Now, keep that head spinning. Spin, spin, spin. You know, it's like turning the black magic of Jesus into something that can actually make people think. And then you're like, I don't know where to go with that. It's like, that's called thinking. It's like, it's not really walking till you get a little lost. You go a little too far. It's not really thinking until you go a little too far. You know, reach, reach, reach. I mean, maybe it's not like walking or hiking where you can get lost and kill yourself, but thinking at the very least should be the most free thing you do. You should be able to extend, reach the farcical, the satirical, the grotesque, the crude, the perverted, everything. Of course, don't go too far. Don't put in an essay on like why I like to touch babies or something, but you know, anything really. People are gonna basically do everything in this world. Well, you at least got to keep up with all this shit by thinking. You got to think about it. I mean, you watch criminal shows on TV and like you think, how did they think about that? Right? I mean, I wouldn't be writing that kind of stuff, but yeah, people think about it. Anyway, I like my mom's company here in the fall and so far, and I wouldn't mind having a child to walk with. I'd like my son to be like 6 years old. Do you want to go for a walk? No, Daddy. I want to stay home with Mom because I'm like you and I'm a mama's boy. And he'll look up at her like, cookies, Ma? Big chocolate chunks? Okay, son. Looks like you're by yourself, Landon, but... Or Dad. Maybe another time. Okay. What about my fair daughter? My princess, my angel? That's okay, Dad. Bro's got it covered. You're conspired against me already. Damn it. Alright. Well, the dog at least wants to come with me. No, he wants some of our scrambled eggs. Okay. Well, so nobody wants to come with Daddy. No, pretty much. But my wife, at the altar, you said, I do. I thought that meant that you would assent to anything I wanted. You know, do you want to suck my dick? I do. Do you want to swing from the chandeliers with your best friend Nancy? I do. I was grossly misinformed. Or misinformed grossly. I'm not sure. Daddy, are you still talking? Yeah, but yeah, it'd be nice to have a son to walk around with. Who like walking. They could go see the land. Look at it, I mean, you look at all these trees and things. Look at them everywhere. I mean, isn't nature a wonderful place to be? And if you're with your dad or you're with your mom or you're with your whole family, like, isn't it a wonderful place to be with your family? Don't families just get the most out of nature? You're camping with your son. I mean, the world's never quite the way it is when you're with your son, right? You're with your daughter. I mean, Jesus. walk with them every day, keep them strong, because they get used to moving around and using their heart and thinking and being able to switch and flex, sense the rain. Your brain can learn to do a lot of things by walking around. Did you know that? It's really good for you, and it's anti-carcinogenic. So it's like, wow, did you know that walking is the way? When he said, I'm the way, the truth, and life, that's like the sun telling you to go for a walk and pretend you're the sun. Okay? Because the sun is the way, the truth, and the life. Right? Be like the sun. Everything in life that does well learns from the sun. The sun teaches everything how to live. Everything lives for the sun, right? So the sun is teaching everything how to live. So we should learn from the sun. And we're kind of like the flesh and blood of the sun. So we can learn from our own flesh and blood, things we might learn from the sun. And we can credit the sun for what we learn from the sun and from our flesh and blood, and share with our flesh and blood and say, look, sun, see the sun? The sun is sharing this with you because you are also the flesh and blood of the sun. And I would be like the sun to you as many days as I could. And your mother would be like the sun to you. We've discussed this. All the days that we took you, the way that you feel your beautiful, perfect little heart. And we'd have you enjoy the sun of your own mind and your own thoughts and feelings. We'd like you to feel as by yourself as you ever want to feel. To really enjoy all your wonderful, sumptuous thoughts on a rainy day with the leaves scuttling against your window. Or on the eve of Hallowed Eve, right? Or in some beautiful time of the year of your own devise. That this just feels like a wonderful sacred night to you and you want to be alone with your thoughts. Right? But we don't want to leave you alone with your thoughts either. And don't be surprised, although how much you could surprise yourself in the kind of thoughts you can have and the kind of feelings you can have as a human and as a human animal. And don't worry if your animal sort of thoughts seem different than you think they should be in terms of your celestial origins, but rather that you can make such a distinction is part of the grandeur of your mind, of its permanent habitation in the heavens, and is its perfect designs in the senses of its own nature and in the feelings of its own nature, communing with the great Mother Earth for the most beautiful extension of her purpose and that of the heavens themselves, with which every limb of this earth is extended and advanced and grows under the sun of all the places in the world that are ministered to by the same sun that ministers to you this very moment. Isn't that a powerful thing? You can't use that power to kill people. It's a full circle power. Full circle power cannot be used to kill people. You can't use that to be violent. You use that to end violence. Right? And we say, woohoo to that. Nothing in my witchcraft is about things being possible to be used for violence. What's the point of leaving this earth with any teaching that could be used to hurt people? Especially for myself, who's been hurt by so many people. And not because maybe even I'm even a special victim, but because I think to be able to be hurt is a distinction of having a great mind. Imagine someone who didn't feel any pain. I mean, how could you ever really develop your mind? Think about it. And so I'm not saying one should be a glutton for pain, but there's nothing wrong for feeling particularly afflicted by this world. Especially if you haven't had the type of support that you need, if you found, as I had, that my family, although in some sense perfectly loving in the wonderful kingdom of heaven, that my child kind of commended it to be. And quite frankly, of the most beautiful consummation that is not so devoutly to be wished, but devoutly to be preserved into our post-childhood existence. Right? Right. In whether we have to just hold certain things sacred or give ourselves time or grieve, that life can press harder in on the heart after so many years, everything and everyone is your friend, and you're offering just this endless sort of neurochemical soup of forgiveness and compassion out of the great merging of the great rivers of the heavens and the earth in your own hippocampus as a child, and cerebellum and all these wonderful things. It's like the drug factory of Jesus, Allah, and Obi-Wan Kenobi in there. just fucking fighting the world off with the wonderful, flexible forgiveness of a child's mind. And believe me, by the time they're crying and wailing somewhere in public that makes you feel disgusted with yourself, they should make you feel disgusted with yourself because you've already used up the infinite vitamin B complex that all children have to deal with you or me, right? So turn that back around, what do you find? Right? It's that there's something sacred in our childhood and in preserving it beyond Disney and pictures. It's okay if you don't have pictures. It's okay if you do, but preserving childhood is like, oh man, I mean, that's like you're getting into the biggest witchcraft of the world. You have to, even if you're the most G-rated type of person, to preserve childhood, you have to do a certain amount of planetary witchcraft. You know, you can still keep it really positive. You don't have to get into the dark areas. But to preserve your childhood, it's like you have to have some, if even say childlike sense that there's evil in the world. Right? And it works mostly through suggestion. So if you find yourself thinking to yourself, my childhood's never been preyed upon, I'm fine, I don't see what the problem is here. Kind of like a really good looking person who doesn't understand how it's difficult to meet people compared to someone who looks like a toad. And maybe an unfair comparison, but but that's all based on suggestion, actually, more than anything. If you don't look like a model, it's only a suggestion in our minds that makes any difference at all. And women fight that off every day, I'm sure. And rightly so. But I have something to add to that in the future, but I'll get back to it. Because I don't think women are doing a very good job, quite frankly, for each other. You know, my sister, too, is like one of those... She's a professional women cheerleader, right? Self-esteem and all that. But the problem with shock, now I'm sort of changing the goalposts, but the problem with shock, which is a factor we can kind of invoke in human behavior, is that no one is really taking account where women become prey, let's say, to suggestions that everyone's allowed to put out there. You know, I say on video, like, hey, I like young girls, or I always seem to more enjoy interacting with a 22-year-old woman than pretty much anyone else, if I'm going to enjoy. And even then, it's no guarantee, right? And it's not a very productive relationship to have because nothing's going to happen, and I'm bound to get a little attached to it, like a drug almost. You know, like when a 22-year-old woman asks me how I'm doing, it feels a lot better than when a 50-year-old woman with warts on her face asks me how I'm doing. You know, like I know the woman with warts on her face. I just want her to feel good, whatever it takes. You know, I'm glad she's found her happy place. I don't want to disturb her happy place. I want to be, if I'm feeling in the right mood, a good part of her happy place. You know, how are you today? You know? But the young girl actually nourishes me with her feminine energy. It does put a little energy in my step. I'm more likely to masturbate that day. I mean, it's just a fact, you know. And then you take me as a case of a man who's never had a girlfriend and has no females in his life, you know. That little zest. Like, I accidentally gave her a flower one day. I did. I gave her a flower one day. And that I had picked for myself, but she seemed to like it, so I gave it to her. And she said purple was her favorite color, so it kind of worked out nicely. And then I thought, uh-oh. You know, we love that. It's like, oh, shit. Oh, that's going to come back to me, you know. And she has been a little more friendly with me ever since. But, you know, I guess it broke the ice. Broke the hymen on that relationship. So I've been really careful not going there every day. And I take long absences from going there. Because I know, in a very crude sense, that proximity and repetition will build a rapport with this young woman. Because, you know, we have a rapport, really. But there is somewhat of a sexualated component. Certainly from my end. And I have to assume a little bit from her end as well. So, and it's perfectly innocent for her. It's just not innocent for me. You know, and I see legalities entering into it, even though she's 22, 23 years old, because even though I've never had anything like that, I think there's something, to be fair, that's a little provocative about me to young women. And it's something that if I was ever around them for any reason, I would have to curb it severely by looking as stupid and ugly as possible. to the point like, I've had middle-aged women hit on me and then they lose interest. Just to get them through the hump, over the hump, like, he really is just a smelly bastard, and then be like, but I'll accept him anyway. Just get them over that crushy hump. And then they see like you're just a smelly person who puts his hand down his pants while he's watching porn at night. It's like, ew, exactly, right? It's not pretty. Men brush their teeth, they go to the bathroom, they stinky. Like, you have to really like somebody. It's not just because he looks dreamy. He doesn't look dreamy after you've heard him fart for the 1,000th time. It's not dreamy anymore. That's just disgusting. But he likes it because he likes to think that by producing more methane, he's helping with global warming, which I think of something I'd like to encourage because I live in Canada. I'm pro global warming, It's like, let's keep it going, everyone. More warming. Out here some days you have to fart in your hand if you want to feel the touch of love. Oh, it feels so warm. It's like the stranger. Oh, I like your perfume. It's like menthe to coupe. It's premenstrual gas. And women too, with their gases and issues and, hairy places, dirty. Oh, well, human bodies are dirty, generally. That's what love is for, you see. All of a sudden that person isn't dirty anymore. It's beautiful. I love your humanity, honey. Oh, I love yours too. When I find your red napkins in our sanitary dispenser, it makes me reflect upon the biological beauty of you and what love is good for. That it doesn't make me vomit anymore. It doesn't make me vomit when I smell it anymore. It's like, lots of iron there, honey. Don't attract the bears. And that's something, actually, someone told me once about, bringing women out in the wild, especially like, say, cougars, is you really want to cover up the scent of, the female sort of effluent because they can smell it. It's very pungent. So it's like, aside from the crudeness of that and the danger of it, it is interesting that women can produce such pungent aromas in nature. It must have, if you say you had a band of people walking around and you had women of different ages, and that pungence, I think, would have recommended you, like frankincense and myrrh, everywhere you went, the smell of your people. Now, today, you have to think, like, if someone can smell you, it's not a good thing, but like the smell, animals don't just smell us because they want to hunt us. They smell us because they smell our smoke. They smell our man scent. They should smell our woman scent. And, they might, if I was with a girl one day who was menstruating, nature might go, wow, we've never smelt that around you, Landon. Good for you. Your family is almost complete. And it would smell like, it would make a ring, an aura between my man scent and her woman scent. This is as far as romance goes for me. It's just like very academic. It's like, first it's like love covers up our weird scents, and then our scent is like a ring of joy to nature. It sends out like a smoke of joy, an incense, I like good energy, Yes, there's people's bodies and whether, it's often not a good thing. If I met a family outside somewhere or something, it's not a good thing for them to have someone between, probably even like 11 and 25 who's unattached or somehow unoccupied or somehow thrown upon staring at me in some way. It's probably not a good thing, really, in general. I think you want to curb that, and then young girls can be fascinated by things. Children are fascinated, and there's no reason for a young girl not to be fascinated by someone. When I was young, though, I'm fortunate in the sense that there was no women that fascinated me at 9, 10, 11, 12 in that way that I would be fascinated by them. I thankfully didn't get crushes on my teachers, I wasn't that fascinated by them. Their bodies, I felt my grade 8 English teacher in high school wore too revealing clothing. I find that a little nauseous. You kind of could think about her, but I don't think she really liked men either, but she was on the rowing team, and she was athletic, I guess. And she had nice little breasts and whatever, and it's just like, But she wasn't, she was kind of a tomboy, you know, at the same time. You know, she was nice. Miss Oliver had a bit of a hairlet. And I don't know, now I think about it, like, teachers are just certain kinds of people that you don't want to fuck. I don't know, like, I would never want to fuck a teacher. I've never had a teacher I wanted to fuck. I never had, even, say, in college, a good-looking female professor. That would have been nice. You know, I would have really wanted to perform for her. You know, imagine having a really beautiful female professor for, like, romantic poetry 101. And be like, and then the rising breast of the sun did peak in one dappled rose, pink and crimson, hungry for the dew, and the sweetness and the musk of man scent encroaching upon it, like many hordes of Huns from the Roman Chinese era. And work in some of my other subjects into there. And they did perch upon that mount, and did have sup with one another, and did lick their plates furiously clean after their mutton and ale. And she's like, wait a second, is this all going on top of my areola? I mean, I'm losing you here. It's like, well, it's history. History being suckled by your beauteous teat. Okay, just let me stop you right there. Never ever call a woman's breast a teat. Okay? That's just never do that. That's not in any literary canon at all. Just don't call them teats. Really? Because I like teat. It's too bad we stopped calling. We never called them teats. Animals have teats. Women have breasts. They don't like teeth. It's like, really? Because, you know, the animal sucks on the teat and latches onto it. It's like, enough with the teats. You know, trick or treat. They don't like to have teats. They like to have breasts, boobies, titties, tits, these kinds of things, but not teats. Never teats. You know? I was like, if you're sitting there thinking, what rhymes with beets? Don't. I was born in Leeds, and my mother's teeds did tease me from the cradle. And when I was older, I collected my cum and meted it out with a ladle. And the poor were hungry, and the sick were sick, much as they always were. And the kings in their high places, and their queens, and their teats, that were always so sure to be replaced by the many maids whose teats that they would use. Milk nurses and such, and maidens whose lusts were lost upon babes in their youth. I say hello to the spirits of the people I've known from this safe bower. Please know that I be a weak man who finds but little warmth and too much censure for the nature of my being. I find a cold lack of acknowledgement of my nature in the many slights which I have suffered and studied and labored to study, because I did not find these slights to be so slight, and I did not feel their nature to be unintelligent and something that could be studied in what I became all too accustomed to about how people who want to know me, often female, seem to eliminate any possibility in how their brains seem to comprehend me, much less, if any, chance I have of telling them and getting to have an interaction with someone where I get to tell you who I am, which actually is hard for me, because I'm not even sure what that would sound like. Hey Landon, who are you? You know, until you eventually get solidified into something and you find a woman who accepts you too easily, or, you know, or doesn't accept you at all, but pretends like she does. You know, I don't expect someone to be bowled over, a woman to be bowled over by me, you know, but I don't want her to sit on one early judgment of me either, like, oh, you're just so smart. And 20 years later, it's like, and so I finished this book in philosophy and so forth. And she's like, oh, you're just so smart. You've always been so smart since I met you. You're so smart. When you talk, I just think, wow, you're so smart. You don't, and that wouldn't be good either, right? And I wouldn't want someone who's like, I used to think it was so smart, but you're just a cunt. Why don't you leave me? Oh, I should, I will. It's just that you're such a cunt. So I don't want to be stuck with someone who puts up with me either. I want the best. I've never had the best. I want the best. I have such simple tastes, really. Just someone who doesn't hurt me. I say to all women, if you can just go through an entire year without hurting me, I'll marry you. Fuck. I got very low standards. Please, just don't hurt me. Don't hurt me right now. Baby, don't hurt me. So what time do you think it is, people? I could check.